Tropical Storm Dorian moving across the central Atlantic. Lots of question marks. I'm tracking the storm's every move. Wanted to give you a briefing, kind of a behind the scenes. What's happening with the storm and what are the big question marks as we move closer to the weekend and early next week? And should Floridians really be concerned about it just yet? Going to try to provide some answers. Obviously, we can't provide them all at this point, but the satellite picture from Thursday really tells a story. The storm is very small, very tightly wound. There's not a whole lot of room for air with this system right now. So I think it's the integrity of the storm and how healthy it looks on the satellite picture. I think that's going to keep it together through what will likely be some obstacles over the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, it doesn't look as strong as it did early on Thursday, and it's likely going to weaken if it hasn't done so already as we move into Friday because of some drier air and some cooler water temperatures. There's also some complications in the long term as well. Warmer water would promote strengthening, and we have that as it moves closer to the Caribbean, but the winds aloft could rip it apart or cause it to weaken. So we're going to watch that closely. It is way too soon to discuss specifics on a potential U.S. threat. But of course, we got to keep an eye on it because of the possibility of it moving close to the Bahamas on Tuesday. That's the official forecast from the Hurricane Center. The black line is what the National Hurricane Center is drawing on, and that's really the model consensus. The GFS late Thursday shifted to the south. That's the American model, and a lot of the other models may shift a bit to the south as well. A weaker storm would likely move more westward. A stronger storm would be more tempted to be pulled northward by an approaching trough of low pressure. A little too early to get into the specifics here, but we're going to keep an eye on it. You may be wondering what that purple line is. Well, that's climatology. Did some homework here, and I wanted to show you that storms that formed or moved where Dorian is now since 1900 in the month of July have all moved out to sea. Isn't that fascinating? The closest one was an unnamed storm back in 1938. So climatology, the history books, not in favor of a storm surviving across the big pond and affecting us here in the United States. So keep that in the back of your mind. There are the cooler waters in the near term. Here are the warmer waters as it moves closer to the Caribbean. So that's something that would be favorable for strengthening. Dry air is still in advance of the storm. This was the water vapor loop late Thursday. You can see that the dry air is trying to get wrapped in just a bit, but there's also a connection here to the monsoons that may keep the moisture around Dorian as it passes through that drier air. Here's the GFS future track, and you can see plenty of moisture once it gets into the Caribbean, so we're likely going to see possibly a flare-up of convection here, but the question is, where will the system be moving? And also wind shear. Noted in the yellow and orange here, it will be increasing as it gets closer to Puerto Rico, especially on its western and southwestern side. So once again, a lot of question marks remain as to what happens to Dorian. There's no need to worry or panic yet or even really take any action just yet in terms of preparation, other than the preseason preparations if you haven't completed those. But here along the Florida coast, especially South Florida and along the East Coast, stay aware for future updates on what Tropical Storm Dorian may do as we approach the weekend and early next week. Keep it right here for the very latest.